Sparkler's training has been moving right along. Last week, I worked really hard to get Sparkler ready to wear the halter. On day 20, I finally got it together with the help of Charlotte, and we were able to finally secure a halter on this girl's face. I really don't like to leave halters on horses, but while I'm training a wild horse like Sparkler, I am going to leave it on until she's comfortable with me switching it out for a new one. I do have her halter snugged up enough that she can't get a foot through it if she were to start pawing. I need to get her a little bit more comfortable with seeing me out of that left eye while I'm tying up the halter with both hands. I don't want to push my luck today, so I'm going to wait until tomorrow to do anything else.
Yeah, very stylish.
The halter that she is wearing now is a pretty thick rope halter. It's really stiff, and it's the one I like to use to teach them how to stick their nose through the little hole. I was not able to get this one adjusted just right for her, so as I'm going through her training and switching out her halter, I will adjust this one so it does fit a bit better.
Boy. What are you doing? Hey, little girl.
Since Sparkler just got her halter on yesterday, I'm not going to mess around with taking it off and putting it back on right away. Because of the specific problem that she's having with me tying the halter, I am going to teach her a little bit about leading before I switch out her halters. That way, if she does want to pull away, I can get her to stop and come back to me. I spent a little bit of time introducing her to the lunge line and making sure she was okay with the snapping sound. Once she was comfortable with the sound, the only thing left to do was to hook this lunge line up to her halter and see exactly how easy this girl is going to be to train. Initially, Sparkler didn't care too much, but as soon as she saw the length of the lunge line out that one eye, she got a little bit excited about it and decided to trot around. This is a point in their training that can go a little bit sideways if you don't have your wits about you. There is absolutely no point in me pulling on this lunge line at this time because she does not understand how to give to pressure, but thankfully, this little girl figured it out on her own very quickly. If you remember from last week, I did do a tiny little bit with her as far as pressure and release goes while I was trying to get the halter on. She caught on pretty quickly to that, and I'm thankful that she remembered enough of it that she didn't get herself wrapped up in this lunge line. The easiest way that I have found to start the very beginning of leading with these horses is just through simple pressure and release. I actually much prefer it if they do walk around the edge of the round pen a little bit and I can just put a tiny bit of pressure on their halter, get them to turn their head and take a step, and that is all I'm looking for. If you've been watching Sparkler's previous update videos, you know she is a little bit on the sassy side. She is very independently minded. As far as Mustangs go, she is a little bit less reactive than the average. But this right here is the perfect start to her understanding what I'm wanting when I'm pulling on her halter. Just a step or two to release that pressure is perfect, and if she wants to go ahead and walk around the edge of the round pen, that's fine. When she got to the corner, I set her up to take a few more steps towards me, and she was a little bit resistant at first, but eventually came in with a few steps. It's pretty important to have a big release for these horses, otherwise they will have a little bit of a hard time understanding exactly what you want. I try my hardest to keep a constant pressure, and if she is having trouble, just move the direction that I'm pulling from a little bit, and typically that seems to help these horses. So far, this little girl is doing great. One thing that I am really starting to like about Sparkler is that she is really good at letting me know exactly when she's not feeling comfortable. Her go-to move is pawing, which she's doing now. What I'm asking her is very simple, and at this point, she's just trying to figure it out. It is pretty typical to see a bunch of yawning like this when these wild horses, or really any horse, is trying to regulate the amount of stress that they're feeling. Even though she does look pretty calm right now, she's having a little bit of an internal battle about this new thing that we're learning. At this point, I don't think she's at risk of going into that flight, fright, or freeze mode, so I'm just gonna continue what I'm doing until she finally figures it out. She took 3 really big separate steps, one at a time, and that was enough for her to pretty well figure out what I'm asking her. Just a reminder that this is a wild Mustang. She has not been taught any of this before. I'm going to continue asking her for just a step or two until she's comfortable. I'll pull from directly in front of her and then off to both of the sides, just so she gets a good idea of the feeling from every direction. The only thing I am not going to ask her at this point is to go backwards. I am not going to tackle that until she is pretty comfortable with continuous forward motion. There are always going to be a few little bumps in the road when you're teaching a horse how to lead on the very first day. It's pretty important just to keep your cool and reset the horse and just try again. This isn't very physically hard work, but Sparkler's little horse brain is getting a bit of a workout right now. For the most part, this is pretty typical of a horse that's just learning to lead. She got a little bit frustrated at points. She let me know by pawing. She had quite a bit of yawning happening. It's only been about 10 minutes, and I think this girl does have the general gist of what I'm asking her. Believe it or not, this early training is going to cross over quite well when she is started under saddle. It's very common for horses to not want to go directly in front of them, so pulling them off to the side usually yields a better result. I've gotten a lot of questions over the last week about how broke Sparkler has to be before she gets to go back to the adoption event in March. The bare minimum for the yearling and under horses in this program is to have them be able to get haltered. They must know how to lead, pick up their feet, and load onto a trailer. There's no doubt in my mind that Sparkler is going to be able to do all of those tasks very well by that time. Once she is a little bit more comfortable with the halter and getting led around, then I will move on to her feet. Since I do trim all my own horses, it'll be really easy for me to work at this in little chunks over time. She'll get a lot of little baby trims, and then I do think that I should probably have another farrier come out and work on her feet just so she has that experience. Lucky for me, I do know several farriers in the area, and one of them actually did a lot of work on some Mustangs I trained quite a long time ago. Sometimes it can be difficult to find a farrier that is willing to work on a Mustang. A lot of people adopt these horses without the knowledge to properly prepare them to have a good first trim with a farrier. I used to get sent a lot of horses that failed out of training just because a farrier could not handle their feet. The concepts that Sparkler is learning today are going to carry over, hopefully, onto the rest of her body parts. I'm excited to show you guys how exactly I get a horse like this ready for the farrier, but before we do any of that, I do have to get her better at leading and getting her halter on and off. It's really nice that she caught on with the first couple of steps very quickly. I'm hoping today that we'll get moving in a more fluid motion. On the first day, I am just going to move around the round pen and hopefully make our little circle bigger and bigger, and she'll figure out that she is supposed to be traveling in a relatively straight line. For horses that are just learning it, because it's a little bit easier for them to turn instead of go straight forward, this is something that usually you have to work up to a little bit. At this point in time, I do think Sparkler and I have an understanding, but she is not one that wants to really follow along. I am still having to kind of pull her, and I'm hoping that is going to get better over the next couple of sessions. This morning, I did go out shopping for a few things, and I bought Sparkler her very own Jolly Ball. I don't think she's getting too bored in her pen here. She does spend a lot of her time with Frisco Bill now when he's out on his little walks. But anything to keep her mind busy and investigate the world around her is going to benefit her in the long run. I'm feeling pretty good with what we accomplished this evening.
What do you think, little girl?
With the first big snow coming, I really wanted to make sure that Sparkler understood the pressure and release before she had the opportunity to slip slide around.
Come on, Frisco Bill. Come on.
The last thing I'm going to do this evening is feed Sparkler her special mash. Hopefully tomorrow we'll pick right back up where we left off.
Zig.
I woke up to find a pretty serious
Oh,
covering
Frisco
of snow
Bill.
on the ground,
Hi.
and it
Hi, honey
continued
boy.
to snow all day long. With Frisco snuggled up nice and warm, there's no reason why he can't go about his normal routine for the day.
Good boy. Good old boy.
Whenever I'm feeling a little bit bummed about the weather, I just look up the forecast for Montana. Right now it is snowing pretty steadily, but it is actually quite warm compared to what these horses are used to.
It's okay, Pete.
It is right around freezing, and these horses are actually a little bit too warm this morning.
Oh, I know.
By the time dinner rolled around, the snow was really starting to pile up, and I wanted to make sure Sparkler had a nice soft bed to lay down in if she wanted to. Once her bedding is refreshed, I should have a little bit of time to work with Sparkler tonight. While it does look pretty chilly out, I am in regular jeans and I don't have too many layers on. Sparkler is warm enough that the snow is melting as soon as it touches her body, so it is perfectly fine to be working her a little bit in this weather. Over the last couple of weeks, Sparkler has had a pretty typical learning pattern for a young horse. At first, she gets a little bit perturbed and upset about it. She has about 24 hours for it to percolate in her little horse brain, and then the next day, she is pretty much fine with it. I know she is ready to learn a little something new when she goes back to being her old, curious self. Yesterday, she was a little bit apprehensive about even touching the lunge line, and now she is chewing on it and investigating it with her hooves as I clean out her pen. I was really hoping to work on her leading a little bit more this evening, but I do have a few chores to get done first. It is supposed to be getting down to 17 degrees overnight, so I want to top off all of the water and make sure everybody is set for a little bit of a deep freeze. Part of Sparkler's passive horse training over the last couple of weeks has been her just seeing me do normal people things. I've started to perform each task at a regular speed, which she sometimes still finds unsettling. Now that I know she can self regulate her fear a little bit better, stuff like this just does not bother her as much. As soon as Frisco and Nigel's hot mash is done soaking, I can spend some quality time with this girl. Because it is a little bit slippery out here, I'm not going to do anything crazy today. We are basically just going to review everything we learned yesterday. A good standing still activity for today is doing some more work around her being comfortable with me handling her halter. I do want to switch it out as soon as possible so she can get used to that motion. I probably won't have enough time for it today, but this will be the perfect preparation for tomorrow. Despite some pretty serious precipitation this evening, Sparkler is doing very well. She is still not super confident about my hand coming up next to her eyeball to tie her halter. I'm just going to continue to lead her around and work on that in little bits and pieces, and it will eventually get better. I was hoping to do a little bit more with Sparkler this evening, but it is getting pretty late and I do have to feed the other horses. I should be able to continue again tomorrow with this girl.
Come on, buddy. Girl.
Last night was certainly the coldest night we've had so far. Frisco Bill was snuggled up in his little blanket, but when I went out to feed the horses an early breakfast, Huckleberry was shivering in less than a minute. The sun is just starting to come up, and typically I do feed a little bit later than this, but I wanted these horses to warm up as soon as possible.
Icicles on your nose.
My plan for today is to feed everybody and then come back out in a few hours.
Your paw's cold. Load up. You okay? Huckleberry? I'll take you back inside, buddy.
Huckleberry did not want to walk around on the cold snow, but he did pretty well just sitting in the Ranger as I fed all of the horses their breakfast. They didn't get their full breakfast this morning. I'm going to give them a little bit more later on when it warms up, but it's nice to see that everybody survived the little cold snap that we had. The only one that needs a blanket is still Frisco, and he does seem to be staying warm. This is just a rain sheet, and then he does have a blanket liner that is 300 grams. Huckleberry hates not being a part of the morning chores, but if it stays cold out, I'm going to have to leave him inside.
Let's go. Come on, Frisco Bill. Come on, old boy. Come on, boy.
It is not going to stay this cold for very long at all. It will actually be back up in the 50s during the day next week. I moved a bunch of supplements and feed into the newly insulated shed, and it is not frozen. So it's got to be above 32 degrees in there. I had to take Huckleberry inside to warm up his little paws and eat breakfast, but shortly I'll be back outside and can work Sparkler.
Little mare. Hey, girlie. Oh, look at your halter. Some more hay, girl?
It is wild the amount of difference that a little sunshine can make. The bitter cold that was lingering around a few hours ago is gone now, and everything is starting to thaw out.
Boy. Whoa. Scary snow. You okay? I get a new halter on? Girl.
Even though it is a little bit on the chilly side this morning, this will be the perfect time to switch out Sparkler's halter for one that fits better. I adjusted it so it would fit around her nose a little bit more snugly. I don't really have very much to do today, so I have as much time as I need to get her halter switched out. To start out, I am just going to do everything we did the last 2 days, and then eventually I'll move on to switching over her halter. I'm not sure what happened overnight, but Sparkler was being a little bit more resistant and spooky this morning. It's not a big deal. It's actually a good opportunity for me to test out how good she understands the whole halter breaking process. She got a little bit scared of the noise the plastic shavings bag was making, and she scooted away. It was really nice that when she did hit the end of the lunge line and it put pressure on her face, she did stop. That is exactly what I want her to do in that situation. Another thing that Sparkler was not overly excited about was the ice melting off of the top of her shelter. Again, she did spook and scoot away, but as soon as she hit the end of the lunge line, she stopped and I was able to pull her back around. It will be very important that she knows this really well before I take her outside of the round pen. I have a very sensitive spine to begin with, so I can't be getting pulled around. As I grow older, this is one of the things that I have changed my training around to prevent. I used to not really care too much if a horse were to drag me around, but now I really do not like it to happen at all. I, of course, don't want to hurt myself when I'm training a wild horse to lead around like this. But it's also important to realize that you can do damage to the horse's spine, head, and neck if they are just pulling against you for a long period of time. It's important that you have a long enough rope attached to your horse when you are working them on these beginning stages. Of course, you don't want to get tangled up in your rope, but it is really important to have enough length that you don't have to fight to hold on to the end of the rope if something were to go awry. Sparkler is being really good about all the times that she is spooked so far, so I haven't had to let go of the lunge line. She's really starting to get a hang of the whole pressure and release thing. With this being a few days into her halter training, I'm going to walk with a little bit more purpose now. We're doing some nice figure eights, and after a little bit more of a warm up, I will go ahead and switch out her halter. Since she has learned about pressure and release over the last couple of days, anytime throughout this halter switching process that she steps away from me, I'm just going to gently pull her back. Eventually, she will get the idea that she is not supposed to be moving away from me as I'm messing with this halter on her head. Typically, all of my training horses learn how to ground tie before they ever learn how to hard tie. Today, while I'm switching out Sparkler's halter, I am actually doing the beginning steps of her understanding the whole concept of ground tying. While she still had a little bit of trouble seeing my hand out of that one eye, she does have a lot more tools at her disposal now, so she can understand that she's supposed to stay put while I'm doing this. The new halter that she has on is actually Pearl's old halter. Sparkler's head is quite a bit smaller, so I did have to rearrange the knots and make it fit just right. Going forward, I will switch out her halter every day or maybe twice a day if I do 2 sessions. That should expedite the whole haltering process for her. Just when I was feeling pretty confident we had our first major spook, she went to get a drink and I broke a thin little layer of ice and the sound scared her. I didn't want my spine snapping like a glow stick, so I did end up letting go of the rope. She was able to bring herself back down really quickly and we just went back to what we were doing. That was a pretty good session for her today. I do have to run into town, so I don't think I'll be able to work her again this evening. At this point in time, she's just going to get better and better as the days go by. I do think she has started growing since I picked her up. She
Okay,
is
little
now
girl?
getting her vitamin and mineral supplement every day, so I'm sure that's helping.
Hey, girl. Hi, girl.
I've been thinking a lot about the differences and similarities between Scarlet and Sparkler lately. I did record
Hey,
Scarlet's
Franny.
entire
Hey,
halter
girl.
training as well.
You're a good
She
girl.
was so much different than Sparkler and had a lot of previous baggage from when she was taken off the range.
Hey, Zach. How are you, buddy?
I can't help but be a little bit sad for Scarlet because she will never be
Uh-oh.
quite
Frisco Bill?
like Sparkler
You
is.
jealous? Come on, old boy.
One thing I've been a little bit worried about during this cold snap is the horses and their water consumption. All of them are pretty smart
You bet.
about the layer of ice that forms on the top of the tanks. They have a little hole to drink through, and most of them stay very hydrated. This new place does not have
Good girl.
electricity to a lot of the water
You're
tubs, so
grumpy.
it's going to be something
Like you
that I
think.
will have to troubleshoot.
Very pretty.
I'm going through a little bit more hay than I had anticipated. I do have enough to get through to the first of the year, but it looks like I'm going to have to make some time over the next week or two and go get a few more loads.
Okay, watch your nose.
Sparkler is a little bit on the sassy side this morning. She has been really enjoying her morning snacks with Frisco. I turn him out every morning to wander around and stretch his old bones. The ground isn't quite frozen yet, and it is supposed to heat up next week, so I think I still have the possibility to put in some temporary fencing for a little track system for at least Frisco and Nigel this winter. Before I work Sparkler today, I am going to try and chisel a bunch of the turds out of her pen. In typical Sparkler fashion, once she's had about 24 hours to digest the lesson from the day before, she is ready to get right back to work. I think she is going to be ready to learn a little something new today. She was leading around really well. We did circles both directions and then some figure eights. She was able to keep the momentum going pretty well, so I started to teach her how to lower her head. This is pretty important for a number of reasons. I like it because a high-headed horse is always going to be a little bit more alert and aware of their surroundings. By getting them to lower their head, you can almost trick them into being a bit more calm. As I'm teaching her to lower her head today, I am going to do scratches on both sides of her face and continue to work on all of the trouble she's been having with the haltering process. She's still having some trouble seeing me out of that left eye, but also she has trouble on the right side as well. It's pretty common for horses to have trouble seeing things go past that eyeball just because the way their vision is set up. Compared to the other side, she is still quite nervous about me being around that right eye. It makes a lot of sense because she has seen me more out of that left eye due to the amount of time I've spent prepping her for a halter. I like to have a nice balanced horse, so I'm going to do all the things I do on the left side on the right side. Eventually, there shouldn't be a difference between the two. Compared to the previous days, this girl is moving a little bit more forward, which is really nice to finally see. She's more confident and she is starting to figure out that she could just follow me and not have her halter pulled on at all. Sometimes horses do figure this out before you even teach them how to give to pressure, especially domestic horses that aren't afraid of humans. But it is really important that they understand the concept so that when you do run into little bumps along the road, you can improve their handling. Today I am going to switch out her halter again. I am going to adjust this one that we took off the other day so it fits her a little bit better. A lot of people think these rope halters are not adjustable. They are, but it can be a little bit tricky. Both of these halters are relatively new, so they are pretty easy to change at this point. Compared to the last time I switched her halter, she is standing so much better. I am very loosely holding on to the lead line while I'm doing this, but really, for the most part, she is not moving backward or forward. And today, after I gathered up my lunge line, I was able to tie this stiff halter with both of my hands up by her left eye, which is the first time that she's allowed me to do that without moving around. I continued our session by walking at some variable speeds. Sometimes this will freak horses out when you walk a lot faster than you have been walking, but these horses need to understand that no matter the speed I'm walking, they get to come with me. Compared to our first session, this girl is doing really well. Even when she gets distracted and wants to wander over and say hello to Frisco Bill, I tell her that she has to stay here, and her reward for doing so is getting some good scratches. I haven't been feeding this girl any food rewards. Most of the reward she's getting is a relief from the pressure on the halter or some scratches. At this point, I am using the scratches as a 2-for-1. While I'm teaching her how to lower her head, I'm giving her a few scratches in a comfortable place as a reward. As we go through our session today, I'm also going to see exactly how far back she is going to allow me to scratch. She's been a little bit sensitive if I venture past her shoulder, and she always wants to back up so she can be right by me. Pretty typical baby horse stuff, so I'm just gonna keep inching back, and as she gets comfortable, I'll be able to cover more of her body. When she moves back, I'm just gonna pull her forward and give her a reward in a more comfortable area. I'm able to get back almost to her haunches on her left side, but that right side is not as comfortable for her. I've groomed her a tiny little bit through the fence with a curry comb, but other than that, I haven't brushed this girl yet. Grooming is something that you can definitely take for granted until you actually have to teach a horse how to accept it. I feel like once Sparkler is more comfortable with me moving around her body, she is really going to enjoy some pretty intense grooming sessions. We jumped back and forth between several things today, and at the end of our session, this little girl was able to put her head down and hold it down for me. Definitely some really good improvement from where we were when we very first started in on it. In addition to growing up a little bit, I do think that this girl's chest is getting quite a bit wider and filling out. There are lots of fun things on the
Oh, hi,
horizon
girl.
for this girl.
Girl. There we go. That's a nice girl. Give her a stretch. That's a nice girl. Hey, girl. Hey, girl. There. What a girl. So smart. All your brains.
When training young horses, some days can be extremely frustrating. Even though it doesn't look like we did a whole lot today, I feel so much better about the improvements that Sparkler is making bit by bit. I was a little bit worried about how much I was going to be able to work her this winter, but I could be outside in this weather all winter long and be totally comfortable.
See him, Pete. That is heavy. Come on, girl. A special snack.
While my plans to have the round pen and arena ready before the snow cames has obviously not happened, I don't think these boys are gonna mind it one bit if they don't have to go to work all winter.
Chill.
They are pretty happy to run around and just get to be horses and hang out with their other horse friends. Charlotte continues to supervise me when I feed the horses in the morning and at night. And Tiny is getting closer and closer to venturing outside and sharing her duties. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for Sparkler's next update video, which will be on Sunday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time.